I just want you to understand that the information in general around weight loss has been incorrect, mainly due to marketing claims. Did you know that in 1944, Kellogg came out with this marketing claim saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day? And actually, it had no science behind it. It was just a claim to sell more breakfast cereals, and it worked. And now we think that it's actually true scientific nutrition advice.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today we're going to talk about real nutrition. I want to bust some major nutrition myths with you. But before I do, first, I just want to say how grateful I am for you all being here and taking time out of your day to listen or watch these episodes. I know how valuable your time is, and I just want to show my appreciation by thanking you. 72% of you guys who are watching this on YouTube haven't subscribed yet, and I'm going to ask that you do. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please subscribe as well. And the reason why is because when you subscribe, it actually shifts and picks up the algorithm that is created behind the scenes here and allows more people to see this. And our nation, our world is so sick and unhealthy that it's really up to us and this community to help change the trajectory. So we want to get this in front of as many people as possible. And by subscribing, you help do this. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and listening. So let's get on to the information. My mission through this podcast and YouTube show is to give you as much real information as possible. There are so many myths and misconceptions about nutrition out there. It's really hard to tell what's real and what's just BS. So if you have any questions on any topics related to nutrition and weight loss, if you're on YouTube, again, please drop the comments below. And I'm here. I read all of them and I respond to them all myself. So please drop a comment below. It's just tricky out there. You could look at one forum and they'll tell you that kale is this amazing superfood and you should eat it every day. And then you look at the next forum and they tell you that kale is going to kill you. So this mission here is really important because I want you to be able to sift through it all. So today we're going to debunk the 7 top common myths I hear that are associated with weight loss so that you can make the best decisions for your health because everybody is very different. I know all of you don't know my background or my story. And so for those of you who don't, I was a professional ballet dancer and I always struggled with my weight. During high school, I went to boarding school for it and we weren't unfortunately taught about nutrition and it was terrible. There were eating disorders and all of these myths just circulating around our small dancing community. There were like 30 of us. Dancers there were handpicked across the world. Only the best in the world were selected to go there. And so I remember thinking that I needed to eat everything low calorie and fat free. So I would count number of fat grams that I was eating during a day, and I would probably get about 5 grams of fat a day, if you can believe it. I was a high achiever. And I really loved sugar as a result because sugar is fat free and it's addictive. And so I actually sustained my body on significant amounts of candy corn for probably 1/4. And you'd think I would know that it wasn't healthy when my throat was burning because I consumed so much of the sugar. But oh my gosh, so much candy. I was like just dancing powered by candy. And I remember, also avoiding red meat for the same reason. And by the way, probably no surprise to you, I did have high cholesterol and I was pre-diabetic despite dancing 8 hours a day. But it was because of what I was eating. I thought also that I could spot reduce, and I put fat on in my belly first, and I always have. It's just there and in my back. And I remember thinking, I'll just do 1,000,000 sit-ups and get really strong abs like my friend who was naturally lean and would just, have a 6-pack after eating pizza. But that didn't work for me. And then I ended up, eventually, I had to quit dancing because my body, surprise, surprise, couldn't take the toll with the way that I was feeding it. So I went on and I earned my PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease so that I could figure out what to do and how to help people drop weight in a sustainable way without just severely restricting calories and exercising more like I did. And so after I earned my PhD and studied the mental and emotional aspects associated with weight loss as well, I thought to be a true expert in this field of nutrition, I needed to be a registered dietitian. And during dietetics courses and coursework, I was told basically the same thing: eat less, move more. Of course, eat a balanced diet, eat everything in moderation. And man, I knew that didn't work for me. It didn't get me to where I needed to be. And so I actually eventually flipped everything upside down, used my research on energy metabolism and the behavior, and continued to do my own research and debunk all of these conventional myths to put together what now is the PhD approach, where we help thousands of people through PhD weight loss drop weight and keep it off. And so, I have all of these clients now coming into me who have expressed all of these myths, and I want to debunk them with you. So I just want you to understand that the information in general around weight loss has been incorrect, mainly due to marketing claims. Did you know that in 1944, Kellogg came out with this marketing claim saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day? And actually, it had no science behind it. It was just a claim to sell more breakfast cereals, and it worked. And now we think that it's actually true scientific nutrition advice. We've also been told that if we eat fat, we get fat. If we eat fat, it causes heart disease, but we now know that that's not true. And so oftentimes when all of this nutrition information comes out, you've got to think what's behind it. And a lot of times what's behind it is big food and big pharma. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the sugar industry is behind all of these 0-calorie sweeteners being just humiliated in the news right now. I think it's been erythritol and sucralose, and I'm sure there's been a few, aspartame, like all of these are getting really, really negative big media. I wonder who is behind it. I don't know, but it's just a thought that I have had. And then nutrition research is just really difficult to do well. Oftentimes it's dependent on food frequency questionnaires. And what they do is they take these people and they'll say, okay, how often in the last 5 years did you eat processed food? Or how often in the last 5 years for dinner do you eat red meat? Now, I might be different than most people, but I can't remember what I ate yesterday. So I would not have any idea what I ate 2 weeks ago, let alone 5 years ago. So if you can think about the impact that these food questionnaires have had on the research that has come out, sometimes it's just not done well. And so folks innocently push these out as sound nutrition advice when really they're not based on good data. So let's dive in. First myth that we're going to bust is exercise. We are always told that exercise is this amazing weight loss tool. So first thing is that exercise is really important. It's important for wellness and heart health and muscle strength, which is the key for longevity. Muscle mass is your metabolic currency. So I'm not saying to not exercise. Exercise and moving daily should be a non-negotiable for you. But is it going to help you drop 50, 80, 100 pounds plus? It's not going to do that alone. Here's the crazy thing. And one of the reasons why is because we're just not as simple as calories in and calories out. And exercise is a really big appetite stimulator. So if you exercise, the body actually upregulates the hunger hormone because it says, oh my gosh, she's expending more energy. She needs to eat more. And we get hungry. And as a result, it is so easy to overeat the calories that you burn. First of all, those trackers that you often wear, or when you get on the elliptical machine or the treadmill, any of those cardio equipments, they're not very accurate in that they overcompensate for how much you've really burned. So for example, let's say you get on the elliptical machine and it says you burned 500 calories. The reality is it's probably 200, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, depending on your body size and your age. But we can often say, oh my gosh, I burned 500 calories. It's okay if I eat this piece of pie or this piece of pizza or even, this 8 ounce of steak when really your body needs 4 ounces or something. So it's very easy to overcompensate. Plus you've got that increase in appetite hormone. Oh my gosh, I was training for the Iron Horse, and it is this 50-mile bike race up huge elevations based out of Durango, Colorado into Silverton, Colorado. If you have done this race and you're watching this on YouTube, please drop a comment below because I love you and it's a really hard race to do. And I came in third actually. So I trained really hard. I was pretty darn fast and I was hungry all the time. Oh my gosh, I could never feel satiated. And I really still watched what I ate. I didn't want to put on a ton of weight. And even so, I put on extra weight, probably about 8 pounds or so, and it was not all muscle. Some of it, but a lot of it was fat mass. And I can tell you, whenever I upregulate my exercise like that, my body just holds on to fat, kind of like a protective mechanism. Also, you would have to cycle 1,000 miles or run 350 miles to just burn 10 pounds of fat, which is wild if you think about the amount that you'd have to do to burn that fat mass off. There were 4 tightly controlled inpatient studies looking at heavier individuals, and they had them exercise more and eat a little bit less. And they measured the ins and outs very, very accurately. And by the numbers, calories in to out, you would think that everyone would drop just an even 10 pounds of fat weight. And no one dropped 10 pounds. The average amount dropped was 7, and there was a large group of people who dropped 2 to 3 pounds. So if you're out there, you've exercised your legs off, and you still haven't dropped weight, that could be one of the reasons why. And then just understand that your body becomes more efficient. It actually adapts to that movement that you're doing, and eventually you start to burn less calories. And also the body says, okay, I want to burn less calories. I know that this energy expenditure is coming in this way. And that's why you've probably heard about varying and shifting your exercise routine so your body doesn't adapt. And that is a real thing. Okay, so next myth is that eating less is the answer, just eat less. And oftentimes doctors will say, you just need to drop some weight and you need to eat less and move more. And I'm sure we might on YouTube here see some comments where people say, just put less in your mouth. But oh my gosh, it is more complicated than that. Again, we are not regulated by calorie sensors. We've got metabolism in there. We've got hormones and mindset, mental, emotional. That is huge when it comes to dropping weight. But about eating less, your, again, body adapts when you severely restrict calories. And this is what my research was on when I was getting my PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease. So what I did was I took 2 groups of individuals. I took one group that were professional athletes, and they exercised 8 hours a day. And I measured how much they moved and how much they ate. And then I pair matched them to recreationally active individuals. So they weren't like Olympic level athletes like the one group was, but these folks just would play basketball for fun and go to the gym for fun. And I measured how many calories they expended through exercise, just having fun, and how much they took in through food. And then I pair matched them by muscle mass, because muscle mass is your main predictor of metabolic speed. So if one group had more muscle, then they likely would burn more calories from that muscle mass. And you would think that the athlete would eat more because they were expending a lot more calories, right? And you would think as a result that they would then have a higher metabolic rate and they would have a higher, speedier metabolism. But actually, these athletes ate significantly less than the recreationally active individuals, and their metabolism was significantly slower. So their body adapted and their metabolism slowed. And so when these athletes stop their sport and they eat the same amount, they're going to witness weight gain. And this is really tricky. And sometimes this also happens when we chronically diet. You severely restrict your calories and then you go back and eat normally and you witness rapid weight gain. Well, that's what happens is your body adjusted. The Biggest Loser, that reality TV show, they did a study on these individuals. And in this show, they exercise all day and sometimes all night, and they don't feed them a ton, maybe 1,200 calories a day. And they measured their metabolism before the study, or before the show and after the show. And they found that their metabolic rate decreased by 800 calories a day. That is a huge decrease in the number of calories that they can eat in a day, right? And so some of that was reduced because they just reduced their body size, but some of that was also reduced because of body and metabolic adaptation. And then they measured that 6 years later and the metabolism was still slowed. So you can do some harm, but there are ways around it. And I'll talk about that in future episodes. Eating less leads to anxiety and depression and regain, and you just don't want to go about dropping weight that way. All right. So then another myth is that slower wins the race, so that we need to drop weight slowly. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics says that you need to drop about 1 to 2 pounds per week on average to be a healthy speed. But I'm here to tell you that that is really not the case. There is a lot of research out there showing that when people drop weight faster, still in a healthy range, but faster than that, especially early on in their weight loss, that they do much better. They stick to it. They have more motivation. At PhD weight loss, when we help folks drop weight, most women drop about 2 to 3 pounds a week, and most men drop 3 to 5 pounds, and they have great success at keeping it off as well. So if you are doing something where you're dropping weight within those ranges, it is totally fine as long as the meal plan is nutritionally sound. And also, if it's slower than that, that's okay too. Don't feel like you have to compare yourself to others. Remember that comparison is the thief of joy. Your speed is your speed. But if you want to speed it up and it feels too slow and you can find someone who can help you do that in a healthy way, that is fine. Okay, more willpower. We are told that to drop weight, you just have to have more willpower. But I am here to tell you that a leaner individual does not have more willpower than a heavier person. It has nothing to do with your willpower. So did you know that willpower is actually a finite resource and you can drain it? It's like a piggy bank that you keep pulling from. So if you are white knuckling your weight loss, or you have to constantly restrict yourself from making unhealthy food choices and you're white knuckling through it rather than creating a metabolic shift underneath where it's easy to resist those unhealthy foods, then you're going to drain your willpower. I always say that your environment is stronger than your willpower. So you need to make sure as you're going through this that you make your environment conducive to your overall goal. So, you know those Cadbury eggs that come out in Easter and they're like crunchy exterior, chocolate inside? Like my nemesis. I love them. And for some reason, I can't say no to them. And I usually just don't have those foods in the house because I know what my trigger foods are. I know what my gateway foods are. And if I want to feel my best, I'm not going to have them in there. And it was Easter, and so I had them there for the kids because I had to buy them for my kids, I guess, because I love them. And I was the Easter bunny nibbling on their eggs. So I just share that with you to say even someone who teaches this stuff is in it and loves healthy foods, it is challenging if your environment isn't there. So make sure that you understand willpower and how it works. You can look at, really successful people in life. Tony Robbins is someone who I love and I follow, and you'll see he's always in jeans and a black shirt. And he does that because he doesn't want to have to waste any of his decision-making or willpower reserves on what he's going to wear. And a lot of successful people do that. So some lifestyle keys to help you overcome the willpower situation is plan and prepare. Make sure you've got your supportive environment. Take care of yourself. Sleep. Reduce stress. Do things that you enjoy, and then get support. I had a fellow tell me the other day that he thought accountability was something negative. And that was interesting to me because I always think of accountability being positive. And so if you have this negative connotation associated with accountability, I want you to reframe that story in your mind. Reframe that story as that accountability is something that's good, that holds your feet to the fire, but you're only going to achieve greatness if you hold your feet to the fire. I have a coach in many areas of my life because they hold me accountable and hold my feet to the fire. And you think of anyone who's successful in life, I like to use athletic analogies. And so you take any athlete, even a recreationally active athlete, they're going to have a coach. They're going to have someone to come in from an outside perspective. If we don't have someone to hold us accountable, we get too emotional. And our emotions kind of shadow our stories and can make our stories really resonate with ourselves, but they're not really true. So reframe your mind if you have a negative connotation associated with accountability. And then just remember that willpower is not sustainable long term. Okay, the fifth myth is that you need to eat everything in moderation. And I'm here to tell you that some foods trigger this response in us that will not let us eat it in moderation. And this is what everyone comes in to PhD and they say, I know what to do, Dr. Ashley. I just need to eat everything in moderation. And I say, that is bunk. It's not true. I know what my gateway foods are. And the other day I was at the farmer's market and I my son bought this like blueberry crumble for his grandmother, which his grandmother doesn't need either, but he thought it was a gift and that's okay. So we got it and I opened it up and I was making dinner and I had a bite of it and oh my gosh, like my brain just went on fire and it was like, I want more, I need more. And it was so hyper palatable. The perfect combination of salt and fat and sweetness where I could have mowed that thing down in a minute. I mean, a minute. I could have just taken it all down and felt terrible as a result of it because my body doesn't do well. That is a food I love that does not love me back. And I'm sure you have many of those. And so I was making dinner and so I ate a bite of salad because I just had to clean the palate out to stop that brain from going like, boom, 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 you need more. It is wild. And I want you to know that most of the foods, the processed foods, are created in that way. They are created for your binging pleasure. You got to be aware of that and smarter than those foods. Sugar and that reward pathways will just drop those willpower reserves in an instant and drop that piggy bank down there. So I want you to focus on the foods that help you regulate your hunger rather than promote it. What are those foods that regulate your hunger? Well, that's eating protein first. Eating at least 30 grams of protein with every meal and snack that you get, but definitely for that first meal and that last meal, you want to get about 30 grams. That's eating healthy fats, not avoiding fat like I did. I was so hungry in my dancing days because I survived off of candy corn and like Nutri-Grain bars. Oh my gosh, they gave me such bad heartburn. Why didn't I realize that until I went to school and actually looked at all of the nutrition science, understanding that restricting calories, all the things I'm telling you, and eating things that are fat-free aren't good for our health. So if you're doing that right now, you can make a change. And you're going to, in general, fuel your body, not your emotions. And sometimes we get stuck with that comfort foods that are hyper-palatable, and we need to be able to let those go. Sixth myth is that all calories are the same regardless of the source. And this would be like saying all miles are the same. But if I told you to walk up a hill a mile or walk on a flat road for a mile or walk downhill for a flat mile, that is going to be a total different experience for you. And the same thing goes with food. If I give you a banana and the person sitting next to you an egg, 100 calories each, the experience of body chemistry is going to be completely different for both of you. And the one who ate the egg is going to be a better experience because they got the protein and the fat and not just the sugar from that banana. When you think about all calories being equal, I want you to think about how the food is impacting you, not just now, but later. I obviously didn't think about that when I was eating candy corn. I thought about the now it's so delicious. And I didn't think about the heartburn that I was going to have or the fact that I was probably malnourished and not getting all the vitamins and minerals that I needed to fuel myself as this Olympic level athlete. How wild is that? And the seventh myth is that you can spot reduce. What I mean by that is that idea that I had where you can just do 1 million abs or something and target the belly fat. So a few things on this is that you have to be able to just overall drop weight and then those fat reserves are going to reduce. This is what I found in my experience over, 10 plus years serving thousands of clients dropping weight, but we drop weight in the opposite direction that we put it on. So if you put it on in the belly first, like I do, that's going to be the last to go. If you put it on in the face first, that's going to be the last to go. But most of us are like me, where it's belly, maybe back, maybe inner thighs. So I want you to think that it's going to drop in the reverse pattern. And most of us, what we do is we only drop a portion of the excess fat weight. We don't get our body all the way where it needs to be. And I've shared in many episodes how visceral fat works, how the belly fat works. And remember that the belly fat is like kryptonite. You don't want to have any of it in there. And this belly fat actually secretes its own hormones that make you hungry, they make you crave, they slow your metabolism. They're in there. It's like a little tumor. It acts like that. And all it wants to do is get fatter as fast as possible. So if you are draining your body fat reserves, which is great, but then you stop before you tackle the belly fat, you're going to be at a really high risk of it all coming back. So you want to make sure that you understand you can't spot reduce. So what you're going to do in general, just to get that body fat where you need to be, is to move your body. And my favorite forms of movement, because they burn fat well, is lifting something heavy. and also some high intensity interval training. And this doesn't have to be anything scary, but what I mean by it is maybe take a stationary bike if you have something like that, warm up for 5 minutes, and then push your legs as hard as you can for you for 30 seconds. And you're really going to be breathy, out of breath, like you can't talk to your friend. This is not a conversation time. 30 seconds, and then you go easy for a minute to a minute and a half. And then you push really hard for 30 seconds, and then easy for a minute to a minute and a half. Repeat that maybe 8 times if you can, up to 12 times would be good, and cool down. That stuff really, really burns the body fat. So that's what I mean by high intensity interval training, and that can be really helpful to burn that fat and hopefully access and reduce the spots that you're talking about that you want to let go of. All right, so those are those 7 myths. Exercise, eat less, that you need to drop weight slowly, that you need to have more willpower, eat everything in moderation, that all calories are equal, and that you can spot reduce. So now you know the truth behind that. I hope you got a lot of value from that episode. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment. This is a community. I'd love to hear other myths that you want me to bust, and I'll include them in future episodes. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please subscribe and leave a review. I really appreciate that. But remember, you got to step up and make the change. Lead with your heart, train your mind, and do not negotiate with your body. See you next time.